less than a minute to go for the service. Again, thank you for signing in, being part of our service. Sorry you can't be here in person, but I am so glad that you could be here. And I'm glad that we have this platform in place so that it's available.
Good morning. I am Chris George, a member of the Board of Trustees. Welcome to you, old friends and new, young and seasoned. You are an essential part of our celebration today. Whether today is your first or your 900th Sunday in our midst, we are stronger because you are with us. Whether you join us in person or online, we're glad you're here. We are one people of many beliefs, many origins, sexualities, and genders. We are all growing, all learning, all loved. Just as you are welcome here. As we do each week and as we begin our gathering, I respectfully acknowledge that I speak to you today from occupied Puyallup and Coast Salish ancestral lands. I pay respect to elders past and present and extend that respect to their descendants and all Indigenous people. We are joining you today in multi-platform mode. You'll see some of us in the sanctuary and others zooming in online. We continue to watch COVID risk levels, and we'll continue to let you know if there are any changes for upcoming services. For those meeting in person today, we invite you to join us for coffee time following the service, and also for those here in person. This facility is equipped with a hearing assistance system. Devices are available at the table in the back of the sanctuary. The Safe Parking Group is continuing collection of Safeway cards in denominations from 5 to 50 for our guests staying in their cars in our parking lot. And our guests will be able to use these gift cards either for gasoline or food. You can put them in that basket right there if you've got one, or a donation. As always, details for our upcoming services can be found on our website or in the e-news. Here's a question. If you want to submit information to be included in the e-news or in these Sunday announcements, what day of the week is the deadline for submission? Tuesday. Yay. Wow. Why Tuesday? We want to support the entire congregation. So sometimes the information needs to be checked to confirm there are no conflicting events. Sometimes there may need to be edits for clarity, and sometimes additional information may need to be added. All these steps take time. So that's why Tuesday is the date for deadlines. We're also using a new email address for publication submissions that you can find in the e-news, and it is tahomauunews@gmail.com. Thank you to all of you who have been volunteering your time and skills to make our congregation better. We are still seeking volunteers for the Religious Exploration Committee, RE Committee, and others. If interested in volunteering, please email board@tahomauU.com. Those who purchased art from the art gallery, you notice our walls are empty again, can see Patty McPhee following worship service today to pay for your art. Contact Patty if you have any questions or know of any artists who would like to be considered for a gallery show. Patty is taking names of people, including children, including me, who would like to participate in a pour painting class at the church at a date to be determined. That's P-O-U-R, not P-O-O-R. Next Sunday, we can only hope. Next Sunday, Reverend Linda will lead our worship service on who we are as Unitarian Universalists. The service will explore the draft for the statement in the UUA bylaws that will replace the principles and sources that have been in place since the mid-80s, and reflect on how we are shaped and shape our religious community and sense of personal spirituality. Today, Reverend Linda leads our service with her sermon on perfection and how we might respond to its siren call. Let us now join together in worship. Do I get to ding the bell? Yes.
Thank you, Marianne. That was a sweet ending to that piece, wasn't it? Good morning. Our opening words are written by my colleague, Erica Hewitt, and she begins with a quote from Mary Oliver's poem, Wild Geese. That poem begins, "You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting." As we enter worship this morning, put away the pressure of the world that asks us to perform, to take up our tasks, to put on brave fronts. Silence those voices that ask you to be perfect. This is a community of compassion and welcoming. You do not have to do anything to earn the love that is contained within these walls. You do not have to be braver, smarter, stronger, better than you are in this moment to belong here with us. You only have to bring the good gift of your body, no matter how able, your seeking mind, no matter how busy, your animal heart, no matter how broken. Bring all that you are and all that you love to this hour together. It is good to be together in worship.
We now light our chalice. And as Linda does that, we share the words. We light this chalice in deep respect for the mystery and the holiness of life, in honor and gratitude for those who have gone before, with love and compassion for those who dwell among us, and with hope and faith for the generations to come. Our first hymn, our opening hymn this morning, Morning Has Broken, hymn number 38.
Or possibly number 126, Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing. Because I forgot to change it in the order of service. Wiped out. Sorry?
It is okay. If you could rise in body or spirit and join us.
Sorry. Yeah. Uh-oh. So is it on? There we are. Can y'all hear me? Oh, here we go. I was going to say it's going to be time for all ages, but it'll only be the young in spirit, but I believe we have one young in body as well. Those of you who are young in spirit are welcome to come forward too. Yay. Thank you, Stacy. There's some people I can rely upon to be joyful and young in heart. I mean, I know all of you are, right? It's just the getting up and sitting down that's harder. There it is. There it is. We know that this is it. So our story today is called Ish, and it's by Peter Reynolds. Thanks for coming up and joining me, y'all. So I would invite those in the congregation to rise and to make a tunnel that our children and others can go through as we sing a blessing to them. We hold you as you go, may you
We now come to the portion of our service, our invitation to generosity. It's been hard times for many people and many organizations and businesses. All of us run on income of some way or another, and this church is no different. If you have the opportunity to give of your time, give of your finances, give of your energy, all of those will help us serve the greater good. As it's showing on the screen, you can donate to Tahoma UU or text as it shows there. There are baskets that will be passed around in the sanctuary. There are many ways that you can give and return the many things that the church and this congregation have given to you. Look forward to the music from Marianne. We now dedicate that offering that was just given. We dedicate ourselves and our offerings to the work of this congregation, weaving a tapestry of love we call community, both within and beyond these walls.
Oh, my friends, what a morning it is. As we come into our time of meditation, we're showing you some pictures that were taken, photographs that were taken by Tyree Nichols, whose death we've been hearing a lot about this week. Another Black man, another Black man's name. I wanted to be sure that as we remember him this morning, and as I offer a prayer that was written by my colleague, Dana Edwards, I wanted to be sure that we know more of him than that he is another name and another Black man dead. His life had beauty and joy and wonder in it, and it is now extinguished. These images are left to us to hold the beauty. Let us come into a time of reflection, meditation, prayer, as is most your custom. Holy One of many names and beyond naming. There are no words left to say. Our mouths are pasty from all the prayers we have already said for all of the lives needlessly lost. Although it is hard to remember sometimes, we know you move within us and among us and through us. Help us to fight like hell when people don't see the inherent worth and dignity of all our beloveds. Keep the names of those impacted by police brutality in our heart and on our tongues, so that their pain need not be in vain. Fortify our spirits for the work ahead. And may our hearts find hope when hope is so very hard to find. Let us pause in stillness now.
Our reading this morning, as always, Linda does an amazing job of tying the readings into the sermon and the message of the day. This is by Kurt Vonnegut. When I was 15, I spent a month working at an archaeological dig. I was talking to one of the archaeologists one day during our lunch break, and he asked those kinds of getting to know you questions you ask young people. Do you play sports? What's your favorite subject? And I told him, no, I don't play sports. I do theater. I'm in the choir. I play the violin and the piano, and I used to take art classes. And he went, wow, that's amazing. And I said, oh no, I'm not good at any of them. And he said something then that I will never forget, and which absolutely blew my mind, because no one had ever said anything like that to me before. And he said, I don't think being good at things is the point of doing them. I think you've got all these wonderful experiences with different skills, and all that teaches you things and makes you an interesting person, no matter how well you do them. That honestly changed my life, because I went from failure, someone who hadn't been talented enough to do anything and excel at it, to someone who did things because I enjoyed them. I had been raised in such an achievement-oriented environment, so inundated with the myth of talent, that I thought it was only worth doing things if you could win at them.
So here's something I know. Something I know for sure. Life is messy, and it's never not going to be. Right? Right? There will never be a time in my life, at least, when I have it all together and have arrived. I perhaps have shown you a good example of that this morning. And while I long for such a thing at times, and I bemoan the lack of it in myself and in those around me, in the way life rolls, it's never going to get better. And I think I need to accept that. But here's another thing I know for sure. All of us in this room have at one time, and online, I'm not going to leave you guys out, have one time or another battled against knowing that for sure, that life is messy and it's never going to get better. Perhaps we were believing that if we just tried a little harder, figured out how to become good instead of the limited, flawed creatures that we are, everything would be all right. Anyone? Anyone? I know sometimes I fall into that trap of becoming perfectly flawed, right? Since I know that we're flawed, I will be the best at being flawed. Humans are strange creatures indeed. But here we are, friends, living in this flawed and broken world, existing in these fragile bodies that are aging all the time, and too often striving to be something other than we are, in somewhere other than here. Author Nancy Mears of blessed memory wrote once about how she lived a perfect life. Anyone looking at her life would have found that to be an impossible thing to believe. She struggled through her entire life with severe mental health issues and needed inpatient care multiple times. She was often suicidal. In her young adulthood, she was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis and progressively became less and less able to walk, eventually relying completely on her wheelchair to move from place to place, and needed care, a lot of care, to simply tend to her everyday needs. Throughout her long and only marriage, she had always had brief affairs. Her husband always forgave her. At the time that she was writing about how lucky she was, and about having a perfect life, just right around that time, her husband was diagnosed with a possibly fatal cancer. And then he admitted to his ongoing, long-standing relationship with another woman. Nancy says that other people suggested that she should look on the bright side of life. But she's not one for such things. She did believe that she lived a perfect life, but she wrote it all down for all to see. She recognized that saying such a thing, with all of this truth of her life written down, saying such a thing marked her as a Pollyanna or in denial or simply out of her wits. And then she says, you know, I would look at the bright side of anything only if it were illuminated from every direction simultaneously. And I'm still waiting for such a curiosity to occur. I know perfectly well that I've got MS and George has cancer, though I'd be glad to take a break from these facts if I could just figure out how. Oh, how to get denial to work. And since they're all I've got to live by, I'm up to my wits, right to my eyebrows. So here's her reminder of what it means to live a perfect life. She says that although perfect may mean flawless, it may mean consummate or whole as well. And it is in this sense that I cherish my life as I could not, perhaps, without its flaws. These force me to live daily at the potential end of the world as I know it. And so on any given day, my life must be as fully made as I can make it. Perfect. This is why Nancy Mears is, and her writing is part of my canon of literature, the collection of wisdom that I return to again and again. Now, I feel compelled to note to those of you who struggle with perfectionism, I know you're out there somewhere, that this is not another challenge to do it perfectly. I can almost hear you now saying, I can be at the best at loving my flawed life. So I say to you, with all gentleness, tell that little gnome who inhabits your psyche and goads you to be perfect that they need to take a break right now. There's a related perspective, I think, about how we understand our lives and what it means to be human in this world. Philosopher Martha Nussbaum brings an earthiness to philosophy that surprised me when I first read her work in the 1990s. her book, The Fragility of Goodness, she suggests there that we too often think of goodness as something hard and gem-like. Like any virtue, it's often a high standard that we attach to a variety of musts and shoulds. In thinking of goodness as fragile, in contrast, she suggests that we think of our goodness as a young plant, something tender that needs to be nurtured, cared for, not a finish line that we need to cross. I think life overall is more plant than gem. We all know this, I think, but we get lost in that striving, the believing too often that there's a way that we're supposed to be in the world. There's that goal to become a perfect gem, shiny, polished, without flaw. Scrolling through Facebook not long ago, I spotted a video of a group of actresses talking about aging. I don't know, anybody seen it, Jen? It's been out there and about. All of them who are sitting around this circle are in their 70s and 80s. And the people I remember were Jane Fonda and Lily Tomlin. There were a few others. I think Rita Moreno was in it, and a couple of other folks. What struck me when I looked at it was how young they all looked, right? How much work have they had done? Their skin was flawless, their hair luxurious and full, their necks were smooth, right? They've figured out how to fix your neck, because Jane Fonda for a long time wore scarves. Y'all remember this? She wore scarves because her neck would show her age after she'd had all of her face done. And then suddenly she was showing her neck again, and it is smooth and flawless. I remember a moment in the show, Grace and Frankie, where Fonda is dating a young man much younger than she is in the show. And she decides that she will show him who she really is. And so she grabs a particularly handy makeup removal pad and removes all of her makeup. She reaches into her hair and pulls a bunch of filler things out. Did you know that women can add to their hair? Did y'all know this? I did not know this was possible. It is perhaps because of my fashion statement here, but she's doing all of this. She removes her makeup. She pulls her hair away from her scalp. She tucks pulls the padding out of her bra and flings it on the counter. And she says to him, "Is this what you really want?" She's implying, really saying very directly, that without all of that help, she isn't attractive. She looks old. And he could never really love her that way. Of course, the man reassures her that he loves her and she is fine just as she is. But I gotta tell you, she doesn't look like any 80-year-old that I know in person, not a single one. Honestly, I have to say, the actress I aspire to resemble as I age is Dame Judi Dench, right? Glorious in her pleated face, the lines from an abundance of smiling in her life. It is the kind of face I look forward to viewing as I look in the mirror in the morning. But we are, friends, every day bombarded day on day with images that fool us into thinking that that there is something hard and gem-like that we are supposed to be living up to. Of course, we have ample examples of those who live lives that are constantly falling apart too. But those lives aren't the standard we hold to ourselves to. They are the cautionary tales of what will happen to us if we let our guard down, if we aren't quite perfect. But here's another thing I know about how life works. You all know this already. I know that. There's not new information this morning, and you're realizing for the first time that any drive towards that gem-like being doesn't serve you well in your life overall. I know you all know that. I know it most of the time, at least. You and I, we're on the same page here. Time and again, we fail to live up to the standards we've set for ourselves, though. And we spend some amount of time berating ourselves about it, right? That's what we do. That's what being human means at some point. But one of the reasons that we come together here, one of the reasons that we come here on Sunday mornings, at least I hope it is to be reminded what real goodness is and what we're trying to live into in our lives. We do need to tell ourselves again and again that there isn't a there, that we aren't made for striving to meet some standard of perfection, but are always in process, always being created, always given another chance to do things better next time. We're here to remember that we are always learning, always changing, and if we're doing it right, we're always growing. I want to end with a story. Part of the inspiration for this service is when I came across this, a story from a book called Art and Fear by David Bales and Ted Orland, both of them working artists. And it's called The Ceramic Teacher. So the ceramic teacher announced on opening day that he was dividing the class into two groups. All of those on the left side of the studio, he said, would be graded solely on the quantity of work that they produced. And those on the right-hand side needed only to produce one pot, albeit perfection. His procedure was simple. On the final day of class, he would bring his bathroom scales in and weigh the quantity group, 50 pounds of pots rated an A, 40 pounds of B, and so on. Those being graded on quality, however, only needed to produce one pot, albeit a perfect one, to get an A. Well, grading time came and a curious fact emerged. The works of highest quality were all produced by the group being graded for quantity. It seems that while the quantity group was busily churning out piles of work and learning from their mistakes, the quality group had sat theorizing about perfection and in the end had little more to share than their grandiose theories and a pile of dead clay. My beloved friends, let us choose to create those 100 pounds of pots for our life. Less theory, y'all. More practice at making something of beauty and worth. Fewer recriminations. Just learning by doing. Sitting again at the wheel, feeling the wet clay, shaping a life that is not flawless. Such a wonder will never exist. But continuing to learn, remembering as much as we can to offer grace to ourselves and to each other. In doing so, we will find perfection, a life that is consummate and whole, a life we can cherish, not in spite of our flaws, but because of them. We will leave here today, head back into that messy life of ours. So may we go with the joy of the ongoing journey, with love for the opportunities and gifts that we are given. And may we go offering grace and care to all that we come upon. So may it be with us today and the days to come. Amen and blessed be. I invite you now to pause for a few moments of stillness together. There's been something in the service today, in the music or the stillness or the words that has touched you. I invite you to Take a moment to set an intention for how you will carry it from here out into the world. Let us pause in stillness. So may it be. Amen. Let's join in singing our closing song together. It's number 86 in the gray hymnal, Blessed Spirit of My Life.
Love, stone for you.
Thanks to Patty for being our song leader today. Our closing words are from Reinhold Niebuhr. Nothing that is worth doing can be achieved in our lifetime. Therefore, we must be saved by hope. Nothing which is true or beautiful or good makes any complete sense in the immediate context of history. Therefore, we must be saved by faith. Nothing we do, however virtuous, can be accomplished alone. Therefore, we are saved by love. No virtuous act is quite as virtuous from the standpoint of our friend or foe as it is from our standpoint. Therefore, we must be saved by the final form of love, which is forgiveness. Let us go forth this day in hope, in faith, in love, and forgiveness. So may it be with us all. Amen.
We now come to the part of our service where we extinguish the flame of our meeting. At home, you can do the same. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Your opportunity in the sanctuary to stand and take part in our closing song using gestures if you feel. And those of you at home certainly can do the same.